Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, I've got an online meeting I'm about to hop on. Hi, ladies.
Hey, hey, we have a Google slide. Can we use that or should we not use that or?
Yeah, let me look around here. Where do you do that?
I think, is it share? Oh, and we have computers here, so they're gonna echo. I don't, is that weird?
Yeah, that big green button at the bottom. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. If you have that, go for it. Yay, I see it.
Oh, see, I don't. Okay, now I do, I guess. Is it in presenter view or can you see all the slides?
I see, yeah, I see edit view. I see your
yeah, I see the whole thing
stack on the side. Now I just see, yeah, now I just see the little notebook.
Okay, cool.
So I was thinking I would just introduce you guys and just kind of blab for a minute about relationships.
Sixth grade bus riders, please go to the gym at this time.
Sorry.
No problem.
Sixth grade bus riders, please go to the gym at this time.
That will end in like a minute.
Yeah, that's usually one of the last ones. You're smart. I need to do that.
Sarah, and then we'll have, because I'm on the free version of Zoom, we'll have 40 minutes.
Okay.
Bus 243 is here now. Bus 243. Student, bus
You're like a weird head in the corner of my head.
243 is here now. And bus 227. 243 and 227 is here now. Once again, bus 243 and bus 227.
Okay, sorry, that's really awful. I'm usually doing that, I think is why it's
Oh.
Do we need to, or are you going to, whatever, like ask everybody to say their name and stuff and where they are?
Yeah, I can do that. I was going to give folks just a couple more minutes to get tuned in, and then we'll get started. And it'll probably be like last time. We'll have some folks, drift in as we're going, and that's fine too.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to write down attendance so I can make sure to get everybody credit. And Micah and Brittany, you guys will get 2.5 times. So you'll get 2.5 hours for this.
Should I get another book under there or bigger books instead of these little? Should we do it? Let's see how good it looks. If I ever get up, it's because I'm dealing with news over there.
Oh, there's Jordan.
Oh, you're on mute. So that's how you click that to unmute.
Like right there. I'm going to remind her about the quietness that needs to happen. What do I need to do? I don't have audio either. I guess I'm gonna. My audio is not working either. Or.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started so we can use the best or use our 40 minutes to the best of our ability. And then if folks drift in, that will be wonderful. So welcome, everyone. We have Brittany Whitty and Micah Johnson from Farragut Middle. If you were at New Teacher Academy back during the summer, you probably recognize them. So I'm going to turn it, let's see. Oh, Brittany, you said your mic's not working.
Yeah, I'm going to try to use Micah's. I don't know if you can. It was that squealing noise.
Yeah,
So,
I can hear you good on Micah's. So.
okay. I wanted that to stop, so we just muted me.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and they're going to talk a bit about relationships. So if you hear something that you have a question about, or you have a really pertinent comment about, Brittany and Micah, do you want them to just jump in? You want to save questions and comments to the end? How do you want to run that?
I'm fine with jumping in.
Yeah, me too.
Jump in? Okay. So if you've got something to say, just make sure your mic is unmuted and just shout it out. Over to you, ladies.
All right, so we have a presentation, and the first screen is hello, Brittany and Micah, and we maybe, I'm not sure who is here, but maybe just quickly, if everybody could just take a second, introduce themselves, say, maybe what school you're at, and then if there's anything you want to share, like maybe a success about, this year so far, even though it's not been very long, a successful example of building a relationship, or maybe if you're trying something new, or if it's a struggle, just the temperature is not very welcoming or something, feel free to share that. Yeah.
Okay.
Brittany, you go
So
first.
yeah, oh no, well, I mean, I don't really, I hadn't thought of anything. So I'm Brittany, I'm here at Farragut with Micah. I'd say one thing we're working on with relationships here in the school is 3 of our 5 6th grade ELA teachers are new this year. And that's kind of one of our big groups we have coming in is 6th grade. So just getting to know them and work with them and keep things going smoothly with 6th grade coming in, getting them used to coming up here has been different this year. So.
And then your mic isn't working, right?
Yeah, my mic is not working.
No,
So,
the next, the other person who would probably introduce themselves, I just realized her mic isn't working. Okay, so we'll just skip that. All right, so I have a story to start off with. And yeah, this is my favorite story. And I call it the $25 pie story because it's a misremembered scene from a Martha Stewart biopic on NBC that was on many years ago that you may or may not remember. And sorry, I'm kind of using 2 computers here, and I'm trying to decide which one is the best to talk into. So this biopic was called Martha Inc. And I remember the scene kind of differently than it happened, but I go with it because I find it inspirational. So she's trying to sell her pies at this market, and she goes in and she starts selling them for $10 a pie, and basically no one's really interested. Maybe one person buys one. So she's like, she marks them down to like $5. Then she gets desperate, and you can see here she's marking down to $3. No one's buying her pies, and she's getting really stressed out and angry. So she just is like, you know what? I don't care. She marks her pies up to $25 and then sells out. So my little thing is like, we're all $25 pies, and that we're worth it. We don't have to undersell ourselves or oversell ourselves or, jump through every hoop out there to show people that we're $25 pies. Now, the flip side is, if we're going to say I'm a $25 pie, we have to be a $25 pie. So basically, how will everybody know about your awesome library program? And are you really being your best $25 pie if you aren't collaborating, connecting, advocating, all of that stuff? Like all of that sort of plays into being your, your best $25 pie. And for the presentation, I really focused on the toolkit. The other articles definitely had some important information in them, but I felt like the toolkit just had so much. Just even reading that, I feel like just reading stuff like that, I get re-inspired. Things that like I already knew or I've already read or I've been like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I read it again. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good idea. And so I really liked that, which is broken up into the categories leadership, advocacy, communication, and learning for life. And yeah, so it's just, we basically went through and we sort of chose some points that really stood out to us. Obviously, we can't cover all of them, and you guys, I mean,
can read.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to read it and pick up on what you find to be important. For the leadership section, for building level. Okay, so one of them was offer to hold professional development meetings, staff meetings in the school library so that materials are visible. So that's great and definitely a place to start. But where we take it is offer to lead PDs for a staff on something general. Like it doesn't have to be specifically for librarians or whatever. It could be for, like I use examples. Like one of our personal missions would be, making sure the staff understands how to use the ARS password system. Leading a PD on that, something generalized.
That would be great. Yeah, just anything helpful, I think, is going to go over well and get people in here. So if we can show them how to do that, where kids aren't wandering the halls and they know how to do something, and they see how easy it is, that helps us and helps them maybe come to us for more things.
So I built a question in here, but I feel like we don't have mics on everybody maybe to answer. But if you want to type in something, if you have had a chance to look at the ASL toolkit for the building level suggestions, or if you just know of a suggestion, we ask the question, which building level suggestion resonates most with you, and which one are you most likely to try at your school? Because this is a point we talk about a little bit later. Obviously, not everything is going to work the same at every school. Like not every school is going to have the same needs or the same community or student body or all of the same things. I know I'm kind of like halfway in and out. All right, so continuing on with the leadership, there is a district level list of suggestions, and maintain a visible website for your school library and promote it frequently. So our take on that is, especially if you are one of the few people who update the school website, that is, for us, that's what we do. And then I don't know if anybody else even does it at all.
No.
Mr. Edmonds can, our principal can, but mostly that's on us. So that is an area where, just simply because we're the only ones that do it, we're leaders in that field because, we're the only ones that do it. But we can take advantage of that. We can use that to our benefit. And by using it to our benefit, sort of use it to benefit the school and our program and everyone involved. So a question again, I have built in here. Where can you find info about using school wires outside of Knox County Schools resources? Which Knox County Schools resources are great, but if you are like at home at like 11 o'clock at night and you're like, how do I get this picture or this Twitter or this whatever, we just Google stuff. Like there's on the homepage, there's a picture place that if you don't put it in the right aspect ratio, it'll like stretch it weird and get all weird like that. And so I've just had to Google that sometimes. And I think sometimes with the website, we tend to overcomplicate it. Like we do that. Like we're like, oh, we need to add an app and this and that or whatever. And sometimes it's a lot more simple, but that's something that we know because we're the only people that do it. So that's a good place to sort of like show leadership. All right, so community level. The suggestion is write articles for your local newspaper or local magazine to publicize your school library program's impact on student achievements. All right, so our take on that is contact the local news outlets to do a story on your library program. We are fortunate we have the Farragut Press, and they like to do stories on the school because it's all matchy-matchy, I guess. So I don't know if everyone has that local thing, which is one of our question. Does your school have a newspaper or a social media page, even anything that you could maybe contact to be like, hey, we're doing this cool thing. Maybe you want to do a story on it.
About it.
I'm sorry. Is the Farragut Press, is that different from the Shopper?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so some of you guys, let's see, Sarah and Misty, you guys have a big shopper presence, and Jordan, you might too. I know Jordan, you're new to town, so you may not be familiar with that, but they love doing educational stories. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, here, let me.
No, I didn't realize our thumbnail view doesn't show everybody here. Sorry. All right, sorry about that. So if anybody, please definitely jump in. You can tell me to be quiet and you have to say something. We're not really sensitive about that or anything, because I didn't realize everybody was here. Okay, so so contact the news outlets. We did that with our Project Lit group. We basically, told them what was going on. They came out here and they did a story on us. Not that I'm trying to discourage you from writing articles or anything. That's definitely do that if that's something you're interested in, which kind of goes into the leadership state level suggestions. Become an active member in your statewide professional school library association, attend board meetings and offer to serve on committees, and connect with your AASL affiliate assembly representative. And below that, I just have write, serve on committees, and learn when to say no, which is kind of a personal thing at this point, because I sort of dove in as a newer librarian. I was like super excited, and I was very excited and very ready and willing to do all these things. And then I kind of got like where I was like, whoa, I'm a little overwhelmed. And I eventually had to start being like, no, thank you, to certain committees, even though like part of me was still like, I really want to do that. That sounds really cool. But I was just being stretched too thin. So definitely getting involved with your organization, whether it's at the AASL level or the TASL level, can be rewarding and interesting. I mean, definitely, I feel like enhances, what you're doing, and a lot of ideas will, come your way. And then, you just make connections naturally with people.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Sorry, it's been a while since I've been to a conference, so I was thinking.
Okay, so the next section is advocacy in the toolkit. And I just wanted to like a quick note on advocacy, because advocacy, I'm going to say that so many times it's going to start sounding weird, is like something that is super important, and it's something that's I'm kind of passionate about. I'm kind of passionate, but basically I have for school librarians, everything that we're doing, when we work, when we, be the best, $25 pie that we can be, all of that stuff to me is advocacy. We are, showing our community, our students, the world at large, what we're doing, and we're doing a good job. And if we're doing a good job, then that is in turn like advocacy for library programs in schools. Now, having said that, ASL, and this is accurate too, defines advocacy as an ongoing process of building partnerships so that others will act for you, with you, turning passive support into educated action for the library program. So in a larger sense, one could say that is saying, so yes, they will be like, yeah, you're awesome, but they'll also, vote on measures to help keep library programs around. But if you take it down to like a school level or like a library classroom level, advocacy can be, I think the example they used was getting teachers to use databases. So it doesn't always, advocacy doesn't always look like something legal or a measure or legislation. Sometimes it could be, something, an event that you're trying to get teachers to do, and then they actively do it. So I just thought that was important to distinguish. All right, so the advocacy section has reach out to students. And one of the suggestions is form a student group to advise and assist in the development of programming and promotions directed at students. So library club, that's.
It kind of it started with kids offering to come help, shelve. We've been like, we're always busy at the beginning of the year, but like crazy busy at the beginning of this year. Just books circulating like mad. It's hard to keep up. We don't have parent volunteers yet. So these kids have been asking if we need help. And so we're going to set up, Friday morning trainings, and that'll grow into other things, not just having them come shelve for us, but have them feeling like they have a say in some of the stuff, more than just like maybe helping clean up or help us pick out book, not they're going to help us pick out books, but book suggestions and things like that. So I think that'll be good.
And in a sense, I guess they do help us pick out books, but they don't literally like get on our
They're not
tidal wave, like, clicking things. But All right, so then reaching out to the staff, make it a goal to reach out individually to every teacher in the school at least once each semester. And for us, what we were saying earlier about having new teachers, that's something that is important for us this time around. And I think just in general, we're social, we're awkward and like,
But
you know, kind of difficult to deal with, I guess, sometimes, but that's just
maybe.
who we are.
Yeah, but you know, obviously we're going to talk to all the ELA teachers on a regular basis. But sometimes I have to think about going to see, you know, some math teachers sometimes, or science, you know, just some of the subjects that don't come up here all the time. Like they do have to book technology through us. So we do talk to more people than I'd say most people in the school talk to on a regular basis, but we still, you know, there are people that we barely, you know, we probably need to reach out to more to see what we can help them with.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it can be hard when you're reaching out to the staff because you want to be like, hey, we're friends, but you also want to be like, but we're also colleagues. One thing that sort of helped me is like just sort of a general personal rule about, and maybe this is obvious, but like sometimes we maybe gossip and don't mean to. And so I try really hard to remember, like if a teacher's coming to me and saying things to me or venting or using me like,
sounding board.
Yeah, sounding board or just like, you know, a therapist or whatever. I take that and I'm like, okay. And I just put it away. I don't worry about it. I don't talk about it with the next person that comes in. And so I think that's one thing that helps with building relationships with the staff is they know that I'm not going to just be going around talking to everybody about whatever. I'm very conscious about not doing that. And on the occasion where it was something minor, I told somebody something that somebody said, and I was like, oh my gosh, I went back to the original teacher and was like, hey, I just blurted this out somewhere and I didn't mean to. I hope it wasn't anything, you know, big deal. And they weren't upset at all, but I felt like it was important for me to clarify or make a distinction that like, hey, that's not what I'm about. Reaching out to parents. This one can be a little sticky sometimes. For us, it worked out well. Partner with PTO members for fundraisers and get a share of the proceeds for library resources and student programs. We got a new circulation desk, which we're at, but you can't really see.
Yeah, we kind of just worked out really well. We started thinking last year, ours was meant for one person, original of the school building, so it was from the mid-'80s, kind of, you know, just was not great, wasn't very functional. So we went to our principal and asked if we could start every year just putting a little of our budget towards a new desk, and he suggested we get with PTO because they were having a meeting the next day to talk about where they could put money into the school. And some of it was to help with, not appearances, but like just, you know, it's an older school and some of the parents were like, oh, some of the stuff needs to be updated. So maybe updating the school. So he asked us to put something together to present to them. He meant like dollars. And we made like a big poster, Mike did, with like our pictures on it with us like behind the new desk, like please buy us a desk. But they really liked that. Those moms liked that. And the ones that we've been working with to do the book fair in here, we're really excited about it. So we're lucky with our PTO. They are very supportive, just nice ladies. But I know not, you know, I'm not saying like homes aren't nice at all the schools, but you know, sometimes they want to come more take over or not listen, you know, not do what they want instead of asking what you need. So you gotta.
Yeah, that's sort of a place I feel like you can take some maneuvering or, you know, just thoughtful strategies as you go into a situation like that. I was always very leery of PTO, like, I don't know, because if they give us money or whatever, then are they going to be, you know, coming in here being like, oh, well, you know, we're going to choose some books or we're going to whatever because, you know, we have helped you, so now you have to do it this way. Or, you know, is it going to create a situation where I feel like maybe some of my control as the, you know, as a librarian here is getting diminished. And eventually I got over that because I realized part of that is me. You know, it's whether I allow that to become diminished or whether I set clear boundaries if needed. And that's on me to do that, not just to avoid them. So I don't have to ever set a boundary or maybe say something that is what I would maybe at first think of as being maybe confrontational, but not at all. Maybe it's just firm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nothing. No, I just.
Can I jump in here for a second? So kind of going along with what you're talking about now, you're talking about boundaries and you're talking about, partnering with people, but still maintaining some autonomy. So sometimes I see folks with the 100% best intentions, marketing themselves. They're trying to become indispensable to their school staff, but often that results in being abused by the school staff, if that makes sense. Do you guys have like kind of like some if-then statements that you use in your mind, like that helps you know what kinds of things to say yes to or what kinds of things to say no to so that you're not abused?
I don't know if I have any like consciously like worded like that. And
Well, this was kind of different. This is more to go with our class that just came up yesterday. And I don't want to like go into a lot of details. We have an 8th grade related arts class. They do the news. It's just kind of like, a class that does a bunch of different things. And our counselor called yesterday asking us if we could take a student it's going to be difficult to have in our class through no fault of her own. Like she's a great kid, but it's going to change the whole, I think, dynamic of what we can do in the class with the other 20 kids. And in the past, I think I would have automatically just been like, yes, absolutely, we'll make it work. And now I think what I said to her was like, well, we're going to just, Mike and I will discuss this first and get back to you. And then maybe, and then she said the 8th grade principal could sit down with us. We could talk it over. So I think maybe sometimes just not even saying yes right away to everything that we're asked to do, because we do get asked to do a lot, especially with 2 of us. And that also makes it feel like we can't turn things down because we know that we are very fortunate. So we can, take on things. And, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to know. It
is tough. I mean, that's not really helpful to say it's tough, but going along with the class, because we do the news. So we have many occasions, we'll have our related arts class, a class, like a library class that would be, just coming in. And then we'll have like a couple of students in the studio actually filming the news. So that's 3 different locations. And even though there are 2 of us, that doesn't mean we're not, so there's only 2. So we have had to be like, if you put students in our class, like either more than, a number we can handle, or students that are
require so much,
frequent flyers or whatever, that are going to take a lot of attention, we can't do the news. We just won't be able to, because we will not be able to have the supervision that is required when you have 3 students locked away in a little studio closet,
recording, and, and having just even to keep an eye on them to make sure they finish on time or go where they're supposed to. So, and I don't think the news is something our principal, our 8th grade produced news, he loves it. So he's not willing to give that up. So I think that.
And that comes into with the idea of like, marking yourself down because you're so desperate to keep your job or feel, like you said, indispensable, that you're just like, whatever, I'll do everything. And it almost does the opposite, because you're not valued, because you'll just do anything. Sorry, were we going to comment?
Yeah. Let's see.
I think at this point, we've kind of, I don't say we put our foot down, but we have made clear statements.
We've just said let's say if one of us is with our class and then the other one has to be somewhere else, if we get pulled because we have been pulled to cover other things, or if we have to go cover a lunch duty or something, we will just say that those kids can't, they have to come up a little while later. If we, like, I guess, for example, I was doing a lesson on some of the new databases recently. So this wasn't even our class. So a teacher had asked me to go over these with her kids. Micah had to go to lunch duty. So I was alone in the library, but was, instructing students. And it is hard because kids kept coming in, and teachers even would come and stand and stare at me and expect me to stop my lesson and see what they needed. So, and I'm sorry, I'm answering Jordan's question about her yearbook class. I don't know if everyone's read the comments. People are probably like, what is she talking about? So where you teach a class and then teachers are still sending students into the library to get books and do all the library things. That day, I actually just put a sign on the door saying we were closed until I was done with the lesson, because we had been planning this lesson for a couple weeks. She took time out of her day to bring her kids up here to learn about the databases, which is something I'm always trying to get the teachers to do, especially with the new databases. And I felt like if there's just one of us in here at that point, knowing that there would be two a little later, I was able to do that. So I don't know if everyone's able to do that. Our administration's okay with us doing that if we're doing something like instruction with the students.
It's a bummer to have to close and have a student be like, oh, I want a book, and be like, no, we're closed. But if usually our sign, we have like a check back later, what time we might open. But also the reality is we are not a 24/7 service. I mean, we have limitations, and we're open from 8 to 8:30, and then closing like that is not the norm. So it's not like it's very all the time. So
rare.
I feel like that's kind of part of navigating life, and maybe like having to come back and get your book maybe during next class change. Okay, so we'll zip on through. All right, so communication, marketing, the library programs inside of school. There's tons of ideas for promotion, so we didn't really focus on that because everybody's school needs are going to be different. And then I had asked the question if anybody had any promo ideas that they were trying, or I wrote half-formed idea blobs bouncing around, because that's, I think, how we think a lot. Something will just spark our interest, and we'll be like, oh, we need to do this, and maybe we will, maybe we won't. But
we may even drop everything we're doing right then and start doing it.
Right. But yeah, so there's always, and
recommended.
it's always on the horizon. And then I put in here about talking to your admin if you are going to do anything public. You need to talk to that person to make sure that they're okay with it, because you never know.
And our principal likes nothing less than being surprised by something that he feels he should have known. Just does not want someone to come up to him and know something about what we're doing that he's not heard about and kind of been okay with. So
yeah,
obviously that's
well. And then the last one is the learning for life, and that one's pretty. That was kind of obvious. That's not obvious, but that's the whole basically use the ASL standards. If you're going to be like, hey guys, look at my show, look at my program, look what I'm doing, you better be doing something awesome. And that awesome thing is going to be the ASL standards, because that's going to make sense. That's just going to tie everything together. So that was the last thing in the ASL toolkit. Overall, I would say my takeaway for building relationships with the people that you work with on the day-to-day, like in your building. I know it's really like whatever to be like, be yourself, but we're so we can't stress enough how awkward we are. When we talked to our admin, like one time we both managed to turn in complete circles, just spin around, and he was like, what are you all doing? But at the same time, that's just who we are. We're honest, and we're, try not to come across as
something we're not.
Yeah. It's like, this is what we have, this is what we can do. So when we say we can do something, we mean it, because, we can do it. But, and if we can't, then, you have to listen, because we're not just going to say that if we.
Yeah, we'll try, but if we can't, we can't. So.
Yeah. Real quick, because I kind of zipped through some of the promo stuff there, because I was the meeting's almost over. Promotion is a weird stage, or weird thing, kind of, because then I put this in another slide, how I maybe didn't realize the level of PR that I would be involved in with some of these things, and being kind of an awkward person. PR and don't go hand in hand, because it's not something it's not a natural place for me to be getting up in front of people and being like, oh, I'm a ham or whatever. That's not really who I am. But again, that's kind of our shtick too, is to, when we get up in front of people, being like, we can't do this, or we're not good at this, and then sort of break the ice and go from there. Wave my hands around a lot, I guess. Yeah. But I'm going to get the sign that we made. It's right here.
Oh, this is what we put together. Like I said, Mr. Evans was wanting a Post-it with how much the desk would cost for him to promote, try to persuade PTO to buy it. And Micah put this together. I'm going
to try to get it kind of close. I photoshopped us behind the desk.
That you wanted.
And, you know, it's just kind of silly, you know, there we are, you know, whatever. But again, it kind of plays into our sort of silliness that is genuine, but it's also, that's not it. You know, it doesn't stop at silliness. You know, we also have, you know, I'm holding the poster up like you guys can see it. But
like read it.
Like actual reasons why we want the new desk.
How
We
it
did
helped the
come up
kids.
with some, you know, economic things and whatnot, but we also made sure to include something that was sort of like our branding, sort of something like, hey, this is for us.
And they really liked it. I actually got a text like right after their meeting from a mom I know through my kids saying how much they really liked it and, you know, enjoyed hearing the proposal and stuff. And I think that helped. Like,
oh yeah,
they, you know, she said it made them laugh, especially the picture, you know, with us behind the desk.
Yeah.
So
which
it worked.
which is the thing too, like making people laugh and not always meaning to. But what do you guys think? I know we just have a minute or two left, maybe, about branding. Have any of you guys, and you can answer, just jump in or on the text, either one, or the chat. Have you guys thought about branding, or what do you think about branding, or have you started that process or plan to, or anything? Are you guys?
I'm going to jump in and brag on Emily Handel. She's not here today, but she's the new librarian at Halls Middle. She has embarked on a really deliberate branding scheme. She's developed a little Bitmoji that looks like her, and she's put it on everything. She uses the same color scheme and everything. And she was telling me, I don't know jack about marketing or advertising, but she was telling me that she really wants those colors and that Bitmoji, like she wants kids to see that and immediately think, ooh, library, fun place, you know. And so I've really been conscious when I walk through the halls to be on the lookout for that stuff, and it's just really cool to see all that come together.
Oh no, I think that's great. I think there's the story about like Google and the color blue or whatever, and how they did all this research into like just the right color. So I think that's definitely an interesting thing. And see, I hear things like that and I'm like, ooh, that sounds fun. We have, I had to make it really small. We make it on a larger piece of paper, but this is our like monthly newsletter thing, and we post it outside our door, and it's just a calendar with some information on it, but it's cutesy. You know, it's like, oh, look at this cutesy thing that we made, but it's helpful, you know, and the teachers like to get this. They like to get a little email like, hey, this week your library visits are, you know, coming up or whatever, and that's definitely helpful for them, I think, and then in turn, obviously, for us, because we want them to come in here. But yeah, branding is interesting. Branding is I think probably could be spoken about a lot. I think with branding, my first like real encounter with branding was with the Daring Librarian. Do you guys remember her or know her? Like Gwen. I guess her branding obviously worked well because I can't remember her name. But it's Gwen. Gwen somebody, but she had all this Doctor Who stuff, and she had a little Bitmoji, and I just thought that was awesome. And that was several years ago, but I was really like, I want to do that. I didn't do that, but I wanted to do something like that. You know, I wanted to try to create something that was ours, you know, sort of taking ownership over this space, over this program, and not like a death grip ownership over it, you know, not like it's mine, get away, you know, but something positive, you know, something like stable that says like, you know, we can do these things, not, you know, I'm going to be like a control freak about these things. Sorry, reading question. Departmental emails with info resources. We don't, but I think that's a good idea.
We've talked about sending stuff out, especially like keep saying ELA, but the teacher I did the database lesson with was science, and she loved the databases and things. Maybe that would be something all the science teachers should come bring their kids up to do. So they're using, so that could be an email, like, you know, something like that could be sent out.
Okay, and thank you everybody too, because yeah,
oh, okay.
Yeah. But I really like Zoom. I like this platform. Just throwing that out there. I think Zoom is good because you can turn the camera on or off, and I like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I hate to be like, blah, 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 but it's about to cut off, and I don't want it to be awkward like it was last time. So this is recorded. So if you want to come back to anything, you'll have access to it. And I hope everybody has a great night.
Thanks, you too.
See you guys.